joining us right now from somewhere around the world. And I mean somewhere. He's been out there somewhere. Mike from around the world.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
God bless you, Mike. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Wait, before we start,
okay.
There is a, for some people that they already know it's COT, but I have a plastic piece in the roof of my mouth, almost like a palate expander.
Okay.
Except this keeps the some scan they did in place. That was done, that'll be over in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But yeah, I left on the 17th in a hurry.
Yes, you did.
Actually, it was the 16th, but 17th in a hurry. Pastor, where do you begin? Let's just say that a rearrangement of the Middle East is taking place, and military bases are leaving. Our military bases are leaving. We're getting our equipment and guys out of the Middle East. They have to be repositioned. They have to come out of Syria fast.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So
tell us about it. Why?
Yeah. Well,
why?
We have the Osaka province. All military assets have to be pulled out. Syria, there's a bigger plan at play. Syria, of course, has a brand new assumed leader, right?
Right.
And he's going forward with quite a few talks. He's also somewhat endorsed by Trudeau.
By Trudeau?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Imagine that.
Okay.
Imagine
that makes me nervous. Okay.
Yeah. And Saudi Arabia, right, is paying off Syria's debt to the World Bank. And we have the UK, who, well, not just them, but they have reinstated Syria's state War Department, intelligence departments. So they're going to be fully operational in about, I'd say about 5 or 6 days, which means we're going to be able to look throughout the Middle East militarily and tactfully to see what they have to do. They are quite, as a collective, they're quite serious in joining the EU through the Abraham Accords. That's a doorway for them.
So,
right?
Yeah, there it is.
That's a doorway.
Today it was announced that he wants to make peace with Israel in this Abraham Accords. And so you're bringing up that Saudi Arabia is going to pay off his debt. This is they're going to legitimize him. He's going to be in power, right?
Yeah, no. Well, Saudi Arabia is paying off Syria's debt to the World Bank through the Abraham Accords, right?
Okay.
That means they'll normalize with the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco. Morocco also, even though they were the main ones that spoke about that individual and his creations of horror, they're behind him too. So Ahmed al-Sharia, I hate that last name.
It's hard.
Its meaning, but anyway, well, the meaning is weird. This guy is going. He's going some places, and I think everybody should have their eyes open. This is almost like an introduction to a country that's about to make its presence on the world stage.
Wow!
After many, 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 many years, you're talking about a country since Bashar al-Assad had power. And by the way, take note of this too. Bashar al-Assad was removed not by some, not by some Christians, right? But the Islamic world.
Yes, they did.
Removed him. Okay, then that's who removed him. So it's not like this guy is the opposite of what al-Assad was. This guy, he embodies the Islamic kingdom. This guy does, right? He is one of the most. He is the one of 100 most influential people, right? He's been that way for some time. His academic disciplines go much further than what they're publicizing. I'm not sure what they're actually publicizing.
They're saying, Mike, that he went to the Damascus University and he got a degree in medicine and in media. And this is what they're publicizing. And then he was born in Saudi Arabia, so that's interesting that Saudi Arabia is going to pay off their debt. But then when he went to Iraq, he fought against the U.S. troops in the Iraqi War of 2003 with Al-Qaeda.
Yep.
So this guy's a terrorist. But
and created 3 terror groups.
You're right.
This guy did.
Al-Nusra, and he was involved with ISIS, and then he finally with the HTS. So to your point, but he's being painted as a hero, Mike. He's being painted as a savior.
It's almost like when you go to the Middle East, there is a notable change. It is not the same. It's not the same, and so. This guy is, he's going to do his thing. Now, what I'm watching for is his normalization with Israel. This is coming. Now, Israel is skeptical, and there have been outbreaks of, firefights happening in sporadic places. But at the same time, you do realize that Iraq is fortifying its, here it comes, nuclear sites.
What?
Right?
No.
Yeah. And China they have fed quite a bit of, money into Iraq. So Iraq is different. It is not the same. It's not the same. In fact, the Middle East is not the same. And this talk about Iran has shifted assets. They also have hardened facilities, and there's an operation taking place that is just deceitful, period. Deceitful, period. It's almost like the world is coming against Iran with Syria now in line with that.
Yeah.
But here's the fact. You cannot touch Iran's hardened facilities. Everybody has failed, even the Mossad. They can't do it. They know they can't do it. So what they're going to do is try to force a change of leadership
in Iran.
Right?
In Iran.
Yep, that's going to cause. That will cause some upheavals. Right? It will, but it will negotiate a type of atmosphere for Israel for a time.
Okay.
And by time I mean maybe 5 months, and then everything will fall apart. There's no way. What they're doing is going to hold.
Well, there's
no way.
Let me ask you, because President Trump is going to the Middle East, okay? And he's going to Saudi Arabia, and then I think Qatar, and then UAE. He's going to meet with these guys over there.
Yep.
Is this about? I mean, obviously, it's about several things. It's got to be about Hamas in Gaza. It's got to be about Iran's nuclear program. And it has to be about now this new arrival. Is this the Assyrian of the Bible? I mean, is this guy the Sand King? Is he the Assyrian of the Bible who ultimately, eventually turns on Israel with a rod?
We will know, and if he survives his own trials, as far as his position, if it's escalated, and the people begin to adopt him, and Israel begins to adopt him. Because, Pastor Paul, I've read a lot of prophecies from religions around the world, and I kind of shun all of them except for the Bible's prophecies.
Right. Thank you.
In the book of Daniel, there's one thing that sticks out to me of all of what's said. This Antichrist figure in Daniel 11:31 accomplishes something nobody else did. And this is why but if I can read this, just a little bit of this.
Sure, go ahead.
It says, for the ships of Shittim shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Number one, with them means he is talking to people who do not like Israel. right?
Okay.
So they're going to plan to forsake the holy covenant. Daniel 11:31 says, and arms or armies shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination and make it desolate, right? So that guy accomplishes this, the going into Israel after they've had talks, after he failed the first time, right? Because he comes against Israel, but it doesn't work by way of policy, as though politics wouldn't allow it to happen. And then he was driven back by some sort of by a military influence, but then he goes out and he arranges and he coordinates with everybody who hates Israel, who has hatred against Israel. He brings them all together. That's what I'm watching for. Who is this guy going to talk to? Because in the Bible in Daniel, this figure, he talks to everybody who has indignation against Israel, and he brings them all together under one banner. Then they go into Jerusalem. And then that process begins, so that's what I'm watching for.
You're watching.
Is he actually, will he actually be the one that ignites some sort of motivation under the nation of Islam, right?
Right.
Because only by their prophecies, by their hadith, that would have to be, well, you know where I'm going with that. That would have to be the chosen one they're looking for, right?
Well, let me ask you, Mike.
He certainly has the credentials.
Okay, so he's very intelligent. He's
extremely intelligent,
and he is apparently very charismatic to pull off what he has done.
Oh yes.
Now let me ask you though: is he? And I know I know you can't disclose probably where you were at those 3 days. I don't know if you can or not. I know. But you're the only one who can tell us that. But here's what I do know. And I know that there's a major shift going on in the region there.
Yes.
The question is, if he is the Assyrian of the Bible, then what you're saying in Daniel 11:31, then he's the guy who has to bring everybody. What I can't bring everybody together in the Islamic world and get the Western world to go along with it.
Yeah, well, Pastor Paul, there is I'll say this. I say this maybe once a month, but if anybody in the prophecy in the Bible, it says Jerusalem at the time of, I know everybody thinks it's bad, but it's not. When Jerusalem is trampled underfoot 3.5 years, right?
Yes.
40 and 2 months.
Yes.
How can that happen? Right? How can that happen with the USA in power? So here's what that tells me. Something happened to us.
Yes.
That tied us up so bad we were not able to intervene with Israel.
Yes.
And then you read how we're stuck by policy, because in Daniel, if you go further in Daniel, it says that people will cleave to those in Israel and Jerusalem by way of flatteries. Now, we know what that is. We know that's when somebody says, hey, just hang tight. We're going to get you out of there. But for 3.5 years, really? We can't do anything. And then you look at the USA now. President Trump is doing everything he can. And, each person's going to do what they can. But there are ideologies in this nation that are dangerously explosive. That's the best way to put it. And it has caused a severe set of fractures in leadership, the direction the nation is going, what can be accomplished and what cannot. The military is having issues internally as far as leadership. There's going to be a sweep in this nation nobody is familiar with. We have AI is coming out to the front. They're utilizing AI every single day. In a big way here shortly. But all those efforts tell me that we're going to be locked up trying to resolve something that happened with us internally, right? Where we couldn't do anything else. And so, you know what that tells me ultimately?
What's that? The
international community is going to turn against us. That's what it tells me.
Well, I think that's happening. I do. I really think that's happening.
Mm-hmm. That's what it lets me know, because there's no way, whether we're divided internally or not, there's no way anybody can stop our military
No.
from intervening in any area of the world, unless the international community has turned against us and somehow chained us up, right?
Yeah.
I know it's not good news, but that means something will take place that's going to give us a jolt. It won't destroy us. I don't believe it's going to destroy us. It's going to give us a jolt.
It ties us up.
It'll certainly reshape some things, right?
Yeah.
But and we pastor natural disasters, right?
Yep.
Suppose they hit an all-time high this year, 2025.
Okay.
We are vulnerable. The Mississippi, right, is about to overflow big time. Right? If it continues, it will overflow. We're having more stalled storms. They do not want to tell people that the storm system we have right now is one system. It's not multiple systems. It's one system. It's dropping water all over the place. Tornadoes they form and everything else. That's going to be followed by some cold and heat shears. That's going to cause even worse weather, right? Flooding and fires are just beginning, right? Then we have to go through atmospheric changes. The wind speeds are certainly going to shift. This with some later on this year, some solar, I'm going to call them a solar blowout. We're going to have a solar blowout. And, that's really going to expose some of the mechanisms between Earth and the sun, and some very interesting science that is quite dangerous.
Well, while you were gone last week, and the sun, and BP Earthwatch was on with us last week, and he told us about how the magnetosphere opened up on the Earth for 9 hours.
Yeah.
And the winds were coming off the sun at over 660 kilometers per second and blowing straight at us, this huge, gigantic hole. And then we started having earthquakes everywhere, and people were having pain, and people were having nausea and migraines and dizziness, and all kinds of things were happening to us from the sun. And so I guess I wanted to get your take on, look, there's all, you talked about the void, and maybe that's something you're going to talk about in our webinar coming up. I don't know. But it seems like the sun is becoming more and more volatile. I mean, way more. And can you speak about that to some degree?
Yeah, sure it is. If I'm just saying if, I believe we do, but if we live in a binary system, right?
Okay.
The closer we get to the passage of one star to another, two suns, right? We're going to have interruptions in how the sun operates. It's going to change. It's going to do things that are not friendly to any planet, right? For example, the oceans that they have found on Mars, right? And some of the other things that they're finding on Mars, may not, hopefully, as published. Oops. But
I was getting ready to say, where'd you get that information? I don't think it's published.
People will begin to redetermine some science in their own heads,
okay,
right? As truth comes out, as more truth comes out, undeniable truth, right?
Okay.
For example, if you wake up one day and they say, hey, in Brazil, the oceans are boiling, but not anywhere else, what's going on down there, right? And it's when there are atmospheric changes so bad, Pastor Paul, that no one can walk right. No one.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It messed up the GPS and the tractors. Easter Sunday afternoon, their farmers were out planting fields, and their tractors started dancing. The GPS, they literally, because those guys don't drive those things. They get in there, they set it up, they sit back and just watch it, and they started dancing in the field. So what does that mean planes would do?
Well, this same thing, except for the redundancy on an aircraft. And we have a wrong heading or something like that, but thank God for flight dynamics and redundancy in computers. But that's not going to work well when you have too much pressure change. No system is adapted to deal with that much of a pressure change. Anyway, though, we're going to start to see these types of activities on the Earth that are undeniable. And they will, as we stated 15 years or 13 years ago to this very day, they will gradually increase, right? Gradually, day to day. So if you compress time and you look at things 5 years at a time, not month to month, but 5 years at a time, then you see the true changes in the earth, and they are devastating. In fact, if we could compress 10 years, I think that all of us would say Christ is coming in 5 minutes or something like that, right? Because the changes are so the increase is just, it blows your mind. But if we're in a binary system, expect the sun to burn out certain chemicals. It again has been observed that when a second star gets near the bright star, right? When a cold star gets near a bright star, there is a material exchange between the bright star and the cold star. That means a diversion of light. Photons start being diverted towards the other star. That's how it recharges before it goes back out again. We may never see the second star, right? We may see some of the objects that rotate around the second star, but not the second star.
Okay.
But we'll certainly see a diversion of materials. Can you imagine our sun elongated?
What?
It'll look elongated.
Wait a minute.
Our sun will look elongated.
Okay, is that because we shifted? Who shifted here? I mean,
no. That's because materials from the sun, right, will be sucked into the other star.
Hydrogen,
right? All of it, well, whatever it has. Think of it this way: if you can be in a house doing anything, right?
Yeah.
You can have no air blowing, but if you put two magnets close together, that magnetic force is going to activate. Right? It's going to draw those magnets together.
So it's a gravitational pull. Is that what's
somewhat? You're electromagnetic. You're looking at radiation bands, right? Being initialized on very different levels. You're looking at heat characteristics that we don't quite understand yet, but can observe. You're looking at a compression event on the sun that is will cause it to be extremely yellow, right? Yellow to reddish. Now, here's something interesting. During that material exchange, there's no light that will hit anywhere outside of that, exchange band. So hopefully we're not in the middle of that band, because when all that material, think of a solar flare, right?
Yeah.
All those solar flares in 1 year going to one side of the sun. That's what it will seem to be. Anything caught between that is going to get fried, but everything else will have no light. They'll have a red light. Everything will turn red. Now that can last for a day. That can last for 40 days. We don't know. We just don't know.
Okay, so it could certainly be.
It will be red. Everything will be red. Everything will be red.
Now, is that part of the 3 days of darkness kind of thing? Or is it, if everything's going to be red, it's not totally dark, but how do we survive 3 days like that? Just 3 days? Do we?
Well, you're looking at infrared heat. I believe we will.
Okay.
I believe that a lot of people will, they're going to go underground. That's when they will seek their real protection. Why? Because of wind speeds on the surface of the earth. Without the sun balances so much. Without it, we're done for. You're looking at 200 plus mile an hour winds on the gusts on the surface of the earth. And that just wouldn't be good.
So if in other words, we're going to have an excessive wind, tornadoes, straight line winds, massive dust.
I believe it'll be dry then too.
Yeah. Drought. Well, the wind will dry things out quick. I mean,
I think, Pastor Paul, after this, what we're having on the earth right now, right, this buildup of weather phenomena is going to be followed by the worst drought anybody has ever seen.
Dear Lord.
I mean, no rain, right? Now, no rain whatsoever means, are we going to have clouds? Very few. We're going to go through a phenomenon that's been observed several times. They can't really talk about it because nobody can do anything about it. But after all this rain, through compression and through the sun's activities, we're not going to have rain at all. That means drought. And I believe that drought has already begun. I believe it's already begun. It's going to get worse. The rain that we're having now is going to flood just about everything, but it's not going to help anybody unless people start, saving all the water they can. But the earth is not saving the water. The earth is, evaporating that water.
Because the heat, because of the wind,
yeah.
because of the evaporation. Because what about the magma rising?
That's just, how can water sustain itself in the earth? Like, we're not talking about superheated water that's in a cavity,
right,
but
right.
How can water, be sustained in a hot earth? The ground temperatures are hotter than they've ever been. The ocean temperatures are hotter than they've ever been. And water is simply not staying in the earth. Salt water intrusion is taking place.
Yes.
Fresh water's gone despite the rainfall. It's the weirdest thing anybody ever saw. You have all this flooding that we had, and now you have counties. There are counties in the USA that their reservoirs have gone dry just that quick.
It's dry. It's dry down here in Florida. I've never seen it. Okay, the retention ponds, I've never seen them this low, this insanely low. It hasn't rained. I mean, here at my house here in Florida, I know it hasn't rained in 6 weeks. Not a drop in 6 weeks. My grass is as brown. It's as dead can be.
It's going to be everywhere.
Yeah,
that's going to be everywhere. Just a brownish ground with dead trees. That will be all over the place. But the crops, they're really destroyed. There's going to be a limit on meat in 1 month. How you like that one?
What? Wait a minute, Mike. Yeah. There's going to be a limit on meat in about a month. Here in America? Yep. Here in America?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Is that why?
Sorry to say that.
Do we got to get cans of Spam? I mean, remember when you talked about that? I mean, that's a lot. Green eggs and Spam, man. I'm looking forward to it.
The weather conditions are killing, they're just killing the fields, the farms. They're suffering big time. And politics is making it worse.
It is.
It's just making it worse because everybody's working against each other.
That's what's killing us right now. No unity. It's awful. No. It's awful.
It is so simple that if a president comes in to say, okay, have that. Let's see what happens in the first year, right? And if it goes all wrong, then hey, it goes all wrong.
Yeah.
But see what what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
But people judge. They judge too much. Everybody's the Antichrist.
I know.
Everybody's this and everybody's that, and people are so biased. Well, I'll tell you. I'll be the first to tell you. I'm a child of the kingdom.
Thank you.
So I'm not biased towards these things. God called me out of the world.
Yes.
He didn't call me into it, out of it.
Amen.
So I can intercede by prayer. But somebody has to pray for these guys. In fact, like Pharaoh, right?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me one time. They said, "Well, Pharaoh was evil." I said, "No, he was not. God hardened his heart. God did that so he could show his power to his own people in captivity."
Yep.
And so Pharaoh would say no, right?
Yep,
God did that.
God did
so
it.
If we could just realize that God knows exactly what he's doing.
Amen.
He does.
Amen.
And he's not going to be late for us. He's not going to be late. But I'll tell you what, we're in a late hour because I can't say it all, but things are far worse.
Well, I have a feeling
than they look like.
That in your trip, you were made privy, and you observed and was made privy to some of the major changes and things that are about ready to develop.
Some of it I had no choice. It Pastor, sometimes it's like a curse of something of family. It's almost like a curse because some things can make life seem hopeless, because I pray a lot, right? I know what the Lord's going to do, but I don't like to see people suffer.
No.
Pastor, there's so much suffering on the earth. Every single American ought to thank God they're not suffering like everybody else.
Yeah.
And some of the evil people in this world, Bahrain, really, the UAE, really, they have talks about using Israel. I can't say any more to that, but there's some not so good people in those places who are at heart Islamic individuals who desire that Israel not be there.
Yeah.
In fact, there are some that say we're not going to have any normalization until Israel has an accident.
We're going to watch this. Let me ask you a question. Let's go to Rome for a minute. The Pope has died, but you were gone. No, you didn't go kill him.
Yeah.
You didn't go kill him, and neither did my cousin J.D. Vance, although he was.
How ironic. How ironic.
5 hours. J.D. Vance meets him in 5 hours. The Pope's dead. That's kind of ironic. That's kind of ironic. That's definitely ironic. Okay. So the Pope dies while you're gone. And we called that the 3 days of darkness because you disappeared for 3 days. That was the name of the show.
Yeah.
But in Rome, okay, so the conclave will be gathering. I've been analyzing the 15 or so that are at the top, but that doesn't mean any of them will make it. One guy is Peter from Rome, which is real strange, and he's the top dude. He's the Secretary of State of the Vatican. He's Pietro, What is your thought on what's going to happen there in this next Pope coming in? Is there some indication of where this thing is going, and what does it mean prophetically?
Well, I'll tell you something. The Vatican is a place of power and influence across this earth.
Right.
So naturally, and it has to do with religion. So naturally, it is a prophetic place. Now that I'm not saying that that their prophecies are
right. I understand that. No,
not saying that part. I'm not discounting them either. Not doing that. But because I stick with the Bible's prophecies. But none of us could ignore the fact that this outbreak has happened all at one time.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I do know that Italy is on borrowed time, that Rome is on borrowed time, geologically.
Yeah, you're the number one guy to say that. So because we got the fault line, we got the volcanoes.
Yeah. And I tell you, the reality of that situation can almost make you cry for the people because you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. Water. It's when that happens, water is going to overtake that entire lip. I mean, everything is going to go, and that will be devastating within itself. Also, you're now that we have the Islamic world stepping up to a podium for the first time or second time in history, I'll say, we have a problem. We have a real problem. You have nations now. Listen to this. I'll say this as tactfully as I can, but you have nations fully adopting Islamic ways right now.
Are you talking in Europe? Are you talking the Western world?
Nations, plural. Now, that's not going to happen here in the USA as long as we have President Trump, right?
Right.
But he's not going to be president forever.
No,
he's not. But it's eerie. They have lost some people, it's almost like they lost their minds. People are going to see policy changes. They're going to see the Islamic kingdoms march all throughout the earth by way of meetings and celebrating economic victories. They talked about that this weekend.
I mean, let's face
economic victory over the dollar.
The dollar.
Who does that?
Who does that? No one ever thought
that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, no one ever seen that coming. Nobody ever thought that could ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
and just in case,
look at the UK. I mean, 11. Yeah. There are 11 largest cities. The mayors are Islamic. The biggest 11 cities, including London, are Islamic. What's happened?
Pastors changing quick. Even the markets, the crypto market, right? I know I keep bringing this up, but the crypto market is going to be back in the spotlight. Yeah, it should be happening at least right now, back in the spotlight. I mean, in a way it's never been before. You're looking at countries like El Salvador, who is a template for other nations, are looking at El Salvador right now as for their countries, right? Mm-hmm. Right now.
So let's talk about the dollar dime. I hate it. I jumped in there, but back to the dollar. Yeah. So this week, while you were gone, you've seen them celebrating that the dollar is going to fall under some other currency. Would you do we know what currency that could be?
Yeah, but no one would dare say it. I think it's going to become obvious with announcements and with opportunities of
Okay.
announcements, and certain people are going to be rich overnight because they bought into something a long time ago that did absolutely nothing. The rebirth of that currency is coming quickly, and when it does, a person is going to go from broke to multimillionaire overnight. I mean, overnight. Uh, that's just,
Yeah.
with one nation, dealing with one Middle Eastern nation, but you're looking at a host of nations who are now self-empowered. The international community is changing.
Mm.
The power structure is changing.
It's shifting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and so they're actually gaining in their ties right now. So look forward to announcements, international announcements that make no sense. Right now, it does not mean that America's going to go broke. People, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. People will have their money, right? In America, they will,
Yeah.
but they won't have a lot to buy.
It won't, well,
They won't.
because you're saying the shelves are going to go empty because there's going to be a shortage.
Yeah. We're going to go through some a little bit of a strainer, and people will not be able to get everything they want to get. They'll have their money, but they won't have their product. I know I've said that time and time again, but that time is coming.
You have.
This while the international world continues to go forward. And I'll tell you something. All that is in the realm of reality, but not saying anything prophetic. But prophetically, things are so close. They're close. You have scientists that are worried. They don't know what to say, right? In fact, I think in 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, people will start to learn, why are these scientists quitting their job? Why would a scientist quit? That's what people will find out.
Oh, well,
Part of that
are they
will
being
be
asked?
because
Okay,
they can't say stuff.
Yeah.
If you were a scientist, but you were forbidden to tell the people something important, right? How could you live with yourself knowing it's going to cause, you can actually help someone, but you cannot because they forbid it, right? And then unfortunately, this is that time of change. It is a time of change, and desolations will most certainly come.
Well, that's prophecy, and I guess the scientists, if they see what's being developed or what's going on or what's about to take place, and they're not allowed to say nothing, and they don't even want to participate in it, and they just like, I'm just getting out.
Like CERN, right?
Okay.
You would think scientists would run to CERN, right? Say, hey, I want my application in there, man, right? No. The ones that are at CERN right now, it's almost like a hush-hush type thing, and many of those scientists have changed. They know. Listen, at CERN, you have an icon at the top of CERN, so everybody can see it.
Yep.
You have CERN itself.
Shiva. Yep.
But somebody needs to check what's below the facility. Right, the Hadron Collider. What sits below that?
What's below there? What else is going on down there?
Oh, there's something below there. You better believe it, because the Hadron Collider was just the, that's more like the public mechanism or the public base.
I gotcha.
You better believe there's another facility below that facility, right? And they have some accomplishments. Take, for example, quantum computing. This is somewhat disturbing. In quantum computing, it is a known fact that before you can ask a question, the answer is given.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Is that reading your
Perfectly.
thoughts? Reading your thoughts?
No. That has to do with time. If you are going to ask a question on a quantum computer and you're committed to asking that question, the answer comes before you can finish typing your question. And we're talking about lengthy mathematical inquiries. Lengthy, right? So how can that be?
Well, are you talking time? Are we talking time manipulation here?
Well, it's just a natural byproduct of what man has tapped into, and come to find out, they don't even know how the fullness of quantum computing, they have no idea how that works.
Well, the president, or not the president, but the White House admitted this week that we have the technology. One of the main advisors said we have the technology to manipulate time and space. He didn't say how, didn't say how much, he didn't say that we have a time machine, or anything like that. But we have the ability, that we have his words were, we have the technology to manipulate time and space.
You know what that means?
What does that mean?
That means somebody else now has it. That's what that means. And that means,
besides us.
That's right. That means time dilation. They only make a statement like that if something has gotten loose. Something has gotten loose right now. Before anybody starts thinking about Back to the Future, right?
Yeah.
If you could manipulate half of a second in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can really mess up some things. And we're not talking about going back in time and doing something, 5 days before somebody. That's not what they're talking about. And that is not what they're talking about. They're relating that to speed, right?
Okay.
So to manipulate time is to be able to excel in speed so fast that time almost becomes irrelevant, right? That's what he's talking about. It's complex, but that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about that some of the TV.
No.
Television has messed folks up.
Yeah.
But he's so think of this in regards to speed. Now, if somebody has gotten close to the speed of light, right?
Mm-hmm.
That changes everything. If you had some sort of propulsion that could do that, or a projectile that can do that. Right? Yeah. We know it's done at CERN all the time.
Yeah.
Don't we?
Yeah,
there you go.
We know
there you are.
That. Speed of
there
light.
You are. There you are.
That's where it's happening, isn't it?
There you are. And without those large magnets, right? Then what is CERN exactly?
It's one big.
It's a particle beam weapon.
It's exactly.
It's a particle beam weapon.
That's why I think they were concerned that they could, by crashing protons, they could actually manipulate and set off a chain reaction that could blow up that's what Stephen Hawking was worried about.
Just like the atom bomb.
Yeah.
Just like the atom bomb.
But blow up the entire universe is what they were scared.
Because once you start a reaction, right, and the speed is now you've now conquered that, right? You can't stop that. You don't know if you can stop that reaction. Right. That's right. But we do have an effective particle beam weapon. Remember when they lost magnetic containment at CERN and the aircraft went down? Yes. And they swept that under the carpet. Then it happened again, and they swept that under the carpet. And then they lost magnetic containment, and the magnetic shielding of the Earth fluctuated big time at the same time that experiment took place. So these guys are tampering with things. They're going to mess people's brains up. The other part of this, Pastor Paul, is how everything's about to be ushered into this spiritual
dimension
plane. We'll say everything that's been hidden, right, is just not going to be hidden, not all the time. So that's going to change everything. Everybody will start to have like a memory loss, amnesia. People will start to have an amnesia that is weird, right? Imagine forgetting something one day, but then the next day you're good to go. This will be a byproduct of the magnetosphere.
I'm already there, Mike. I'm already having those issues. So now you're just going to make it worse.
Because without the magnetic shielding, right?
Yeah.
Your neurons, your neural net in your brain, those connections become meaningless for a second or two, and that can cause memory loss big time. That can cause memory loss, and for some people, it can turn them into animals. It can make them highly aggressive, or hyper depressed. So we're going to have to deal with that. These emotions, these large, emotional swings. So get ready for that too. That's going to be one of those unexplained things.
Okay, now what about piercing the veil, or what about going to another dimension? Is that part?
They've done that already. They did that already.
Are they afraid? Are we getting into a spiritual realm where there's other entities, good or bad?
They're doing what they did Pastor Paul, they're not dealing with anything good. I don't believe.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Because these guys, why would those people at CERN put the devil himself up for an object of worship?
That tells you who. That tells you which side they're going. Why they're going over there.
Yeah. And no disrespect to India, but when you begin to worship all these different gods and goddesses, and then put that one up there, the creator and destroyer, right?
That's Apollyon.
They're taking over his power, right? The power of the creation and destruction is what they're doing at CERN. That's what they're doing.
They're messing with something they better not be messing with.
That's what they're doing. For what reason would they continue to have experiments like that? And then for other people, when they know about certain experiments that took place all over the world dealing with Lucifer, devils, demons, lots of these experiments that are classified had to do with demons. Do you know that?
Well, okay, now Apollyon is the destroyer, and Shiva is the goddess of destruction or whatever, right? And the underworld, and this also, they built CERN over the very area where they were a pagan worship of Apollo. It's like they are actually
Did you say used to?
Well, they still do. Okay,
they recreated that?
They do it now in the modern ability, much greater power now, right?
Yeah, they have resurrected that entire chamber below.
They're trying to open the bottomless pit, Mike. They're really trying to. Maybe they have already.
Pastor, I think people should, for those who believe in Christ, that's good. But the first influence of these of the demoniacs would be this because right now people, they know it themselves, Pastor Paul. Something is fighting their faith. And it's on a spiritual level. What I mean by that is you have people reading and praying and doing everything. But as soon as they close the Bible and walk away, it's almost as if something is fighting everything within them to emotionally drain them and to get them to start doubting everything almost immediately.
Yeah.
And if a person does not motivate themselves, it's almost like they can't get it back or something like that, right? It's like they're dead. And do you remember the fire that people used to have back in 2010, 11, 12, and 13?
Oh, yeah.
And something zapped it in 2015.
Yeah.
Something happened in 2015 that zapped the fire of many people because people they had a feeling. When you start talking about prophecy, it caused an excitement that nobody could explain.
Yep.
What happened to that? Right? See, a lot of people lost that, and people are just ignoring that. They can ignore that. That's a reality all over the face of the earth. And worse things are coming. But that fire, right? That fire is coming back. But it's not coming back to everybody. It's not coming back to everybody. It's coming back to those who are real, right? I mean, real. Those who stay the course is coming back. My advice would be to anybody, you learn what you can learn, right? Don't become the expert on everything that's wrong, but just learn and try to get on the right side of things and there you go. And do what you do, because I just don't believe we have the time people think we have. I don't. I just don't. And it's going to be a sad deal for those who rejected Christ, because he's working. It's almost like right now Christ is working he's active with everybody on a very intimate level. And how many people are rejecting him by choosing the ways of this world yet again over the ways of righteousness? Or worse, they have made unto themselves their own Christ.
That's worse. No. That's blasphemous.
Yeah. Well, we have the Islamic kingdom rising, and they're starting to spread like a plague. I mean, a real plague. And then we have something is happening in America. You have a president who finally spoke the name of Jesus. But who does that?
That's amazing. Right?
Who does that? Because I used to tell people all the time, anybody can say God all day long. I don't know what God they're talking about. Unless they identify that with Christ.
But Jesus.
And so, we're in a very different time. But well, here we are.
Well, we are right in the middle of it. And let me ask you, now that you did 3 days and you've come back, are we closer than we thought?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Most.
Right?
You know what?
Do you sense that things are a lot further down the road than you thought?
I do.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
think we're in the middle of something right now, right? It's almost like being in the eye of a storm,
Oh boy.
but we cannot see outside the eye, right?
Yeah.
But with a little shift, we get the full grunt of the storm. And there's the warnings have gone out for 5,000 years.
Yep.
They've already gone out. Everything has already been declared, but people are people. And but this one, there's going to be a bit of a jolt, a faith jolt. People are going to get that wake up call. They're going to get it.
Yeah.
Because I'll say it again, geologically, things are not going to hold together. They're not.
Yeah,
they're just not.
I'm. Of course, Jesus warned us that this would be the birthing pains. He told us it was going to be like a time like we've never seen before, nor ever will be.
Yep.
So, I mean, how many ticking time bombs do you? I mean, Cascadia's subduction zone, this fault line under Italy. You got Tonga down there, the super volcano. You got Yellowstone over here. Now we got Mount Spur about ready to blow. We got all those volcanoes along the west coast of California, all the way down to, you've talked about it, all the way into Mexico, all the way down into the Caribbean area. You got that big crack up there in the North Atlantic that you've talked about that shoots kind of under New York and all that.
Yep.
So, and then I didn't even bring up, New Madrid. So, what do you think? Where are you the most concerned? If you had to pick one, I'm not trying to have you prophesy it, or I'm not going to hold you to it. Just if you had to pick one, which is the one around the world that you think is the closest, the most dangerous thing?
Rome. Rome.
I mean, the fact that
it's so odd, because without the Pope, right, I would have picked Rome, but it just so happens that
he died,
and we knew he was gonna. In fact, was it 3 weeks ago on your show, and we were kind of both convinced he was. That was it.
Yeah,
but some strange synchronicities with all that.
I did a show.
What number did they say he was? What number?
He's number 266. So the next one's 267, which is Malachi's number.
And what in the public side though? What number are they trying to say he is?
What number you mean?
Which pope is he? What number pope is he?
He is actually 266, but. Yeah, you're right, because 112.
I know there's a bit of confusion with
it's
that
112 from St. Malachi's, yes.
Which is, in the middle of the week, I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
I'm going to show you something that happened during my absence. Well, actually, this thing has been up there for maybe for some time, but it matches that. Weird, just weird. But I think this guy, the Pope, he wasn't the guy in the coffin, by the way. He was not. The guy in the coffin is going to upset everybody.
Is the guy in the coffin an American?
Okay. Yeah. It's just, it's sad. It's the sad thing. That's just a sad thing. But
here's something that happened
it'll
to me,
start
Mike.
Changing things,
I did on Sunday night. I did a show, and I called it Rome on the Brink. That's before he died, okay? And I did it called Rome on the Brink, and talked about, that when the Pope goes, there's going to have to be, and I even named a couple guys that was out there. And then he died 3 days later, which was really weird, okay? Really weird. I don't know what to say. I didn't get a prophecy he was going to die right then. But you and I talked about 3 weeks before he died.
We did.
So we kind of felt at the end,
We did.
And here we are. And I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to pick somebody, but I have a feeling that there's a ushering in of something. I'm not sure. The world, how the world spins on this stuff.
Yeah. And he sat in a position of authority during the most
Absolutely.
controversial time ever.
Yes, he did.
I mean, if he with all the wokeism and all that ism stuff that he had to deal with, and that he, you know, had as he was over, that was a lot to deal with.
He endorsed
That was
a
a
lot
lot.
of that. I know.
Yes, that was a lot. That was a whole lot, Pastor. So that was a, and it seems like now anybody who comes in right now, how in the world they're gonna if they were to come in, I mean, and really be real, they would have to undo all of that.
Yep, they would.
All of that. And the other side of that is the legal aspect of it, right? Because there are people right now under, well, let's just say they're being covered right now. And if that covering comes off, they're going to jail. And that will be now that would look like a time of judgment for Rome that nobody ever saw before, right? But here we are.
Here we are. We're going to have to see what happens. And as Mike from the World has just said, folks, Pope Francis is not the man in the coffin. The man that Mike saw in the coffin was an American, and it will shake up the whole world.
Yes, it's disturbing.
So
it will be disturbing. It will ignite some things. It's just not a good thing. And you know what I really thought, Pastor Paul? What is the deal with just because the Lord, you know, if the Lord gives you a dream or you have a dream or something like that,
yep.
It's what the world is up with the stone steps. Are they really they're conspiring to do something awful? You do know that, don't you?
I do know that. And so what do you think they're going to do? I mean,
oh my Lord, I tell you what, if they do what I think they're going to try and do, then it will be a civil war in this nation. Instantly. I mean, instantly. And I'll say it again because from what I saw, the people in the streets, you could not comfort those people.
Is the Supreme
Court, there was no comforting those people.
Are you concerned that they're going to do something with the Supreme Court?
Pastor, I know some dirty folks, and I'm telling you, this election, you know, I was in prayer with this election, and it was as if the Lord kept drilling into me. This is a time of betrayal.
Yeah.
And then I kept seeing, it's almost like you could see people as rats crawling under the ground, ready to strike everywhere. I mean, they were everywhere. So it is, you know, we're in, and from what you see every day, it looks almost just like that. You know, people waiting in the shadows to do what they have to do. Keep praying, folks. I'll say that. Keep praying, because I personally know some of the things that are happening around the president, and it's very difficult to deal with. He may smile on the camera. I'm telling you that, you know,
he's under a ton of pressure.
Stress is something else. And you know, why? And people say, well, he's the Antichrist. The Antichrist is not going to be stressed.
No,
my goodness.
How can you be the Antichrist? Is not going to be stressed. First of all, you can't declare Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
You will not. That's right.
You won't even touch that. No, you can only. No man can call Jesus Lord except by the Holy Ghost. That's a scripture. Okay. That's right. He's proclaiming it every day he turns around. He's the most persecuted man for Christ in the world right now. Did you see the bruise that keeps showing up on that right hand of his? Is there something going on medically, you think?
Yeah, listen, it's when he's up there in age, right? Yeah. He is. And I can tell you right now, the Lord is keeping him. He's keeping him. You know, it's funny too, because the Lord there are Christians in this nation, right?
Yep.
And the Lord will have in power who he has in power based on his word for us. If all we have to do is pray, continue to pray, not that our will be done, but God's will be done in this land, sincerely. The Lord he'll do exactly what he said he would do. But one day we're going to find out the truth. And when we do, there are going to be a lot of people out there that will regret the day they wasted time in men's affairs and not in their Father's business, because we have an opportunity right now. And because Trump is not Christian. He's not.
No, he's not.
We have an opportunity to flourish.
Yes, we
in
do.
truth.
Yes,
I mean,
we
in
do.
truth, like never before. And so I think if we can kind of focus in that area, well, we can do a lot.
We can do a lot.
This is that moment. I know people want a revival. I believe the tent for revival has been opened up. We're the ones who have to act on it. That's what I believe. I believe the Holy Spirit is right there ready. Christ he's already made that call. People are primed for it, right? A bunch of more lies are about to be exposed, which will free up, some people's concepts and theories. Because right after that, it'll be absolute betrayal and deceit. Like we never.
I got to ask you one more question before you get
yes,
away.
sir.
Klaus Schwab, just the same day the Pope died, Klaus Schwab resigned. Now, he told us he was going to be resigning, but he did it the exact day. That's a big deal because this guy is a new world order all the way. I mean, this guy is a global governance. The man that took over was the former CEO of Nestle. I don't think he's the real heir apparent follow. Are you expecting someone to come in to be the leader who's really going to push this new world order agenda hard?
Pastor, I'll explain something real brief. In the criminal world, right, when one criminal dies, it seems like the abilities of that criminal mastermind is given immediately to another criminal.
Yeah, it's like the mantle falls on him. Yeah.
Right. So in this case, when he died, Charles Schwab, his mentality, ideologies, and everything else, I personally believe, because they were by no means holy, I believe they were transferred. I believe the entity behind his mind is already settling in somebody else. That's what I believe.
All right.
That's exactly what I believe. So it's almost like a consolidation of spirits is happening, right?
Yeah.
When we knew the Pope was going.
Yep.
But I didn't tell you this one. He's one of four. Now I can't shake that one. He's one of four. He's just one of four. One of four different heads of state, you could say.
That are going to go.
That will be leaving. Yeah. I believe they're going to go pretty quick together. And when that takes place, it'll be a type of another type consolidation happening.
This is huge. This is huge. All right. Well, I've got my eye on a couple of guys. One is sick, and he may not make it long. But, yeah, one of four. Okay, we're going to keep our eyes open on that, Mike.
Yeah.
Keep our eyes open. Yep. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. I'm so glad you're back. I hope everything heals up with your mouth, whatever you have.
Well, it's just it keeps everything in place. It's I don't believe it's a big issue. They push the issue, so I just did it. Well,
that's all right. And if everything's good, but you're back. You're back, and we're all happy. And look, we appreciate all the information tonight. It's very, very good show. It's very eye opening. And there's some big changes happening right now in the world. And I think I heard through what you're saying, I felt your energy that there's some major things shifting. This thing in Syria, this new guy rising, he may be the Assyrian of the Bible. It looks like they're going to promote him from every direction, which is really weird, man, because he's not right. He's a dirty dude. But what are you going to do? If they want to polish him up and make him something and prop him up, he comes.
That's right. And
we're going to keep our eye on, and that means the whole.
Yeah, we got to watch.
Europe is shifting, and the United States is waning, and there's a lot to pray about. Yeah. Mike, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Pastor, God bless and keep you always. It's always an honor.
The honor's mine. It really is. It really is. God bless, brother.
God bless.